This is The Antidote with Dave Hawkins, where Christian music doesn't suck.
When you're alone, do you feel the world spin without you? And are you afraid? Your voice won't reach over the turning, but as you hide away in every single one of your sad bones sliver in bed, you say you carelessly left your candles burning to the sunrise. Every day's written in shorthand, but as you lie away, just trying to recall what keeps you on the side of the glass, you say your days are killing time and you're a creature born within your own.
Sad Bones, a gorgeous track from the new release Inchoate from tonight's guest, Valaska. The band happened to get in touch with me a few weeks back wondering if The Antidote would be interested in reviewing their new album. But when I heard it, I loved it, and I knew I wanted to take it a step further and have the band come for a talk about Inchoate. Funny enough, coincidentally, I drove through Chicago, the hometown of Valaska, just a couple of days ago. I would have loved to have met the band in person, but I was at a festival and they were on tour, so we decided to opt for a conversation on the net. And we spent some time talking about their previous albums, how their music comes into being, and of course, the new release Inchoate. Coming up right after the first part of our talk with Valaska, we have Esperismo from last year's release Thing. Enjoy our talk and the band's great music. Chicago's Valaska are here for a visit. Guys, thanks for joining The Antidote.
Thanks for having us.
How about each of you introducing yourselves and giving us your role in Valaska?
I'm Matt. I play drums. I'm Dave. I sing and play guitar.
I'm James. I sing and play guitar.
And I'm Zach, and I play bass.
Valaska began as a solo effort, I guess, from you, Dave.
Yes.
What was it that made you want to decide to switch to being a full band?
Well, it was really just because at first it was Matt and Zach. When Valaska started touring, they started just kind of touring band members, but there was just like a real chemistry that just seemed to really work when we toured on Natural Habitat. So we kind of explored it through writing a little bit, and then they became full members, and then we recorded the second record, Thing. And then it was through that James kind of jumped in, and then with Inchoate, it was the four of us writing together. Anyway, I mean, I loved playing solo. I mean, I feel like I'll always kind of love just like the solo aspect of writing, but I think bringing in other opinions and other artistic opinions, like it really was beneficial, I think, to the music overall.
And what about you other guys? Is Dave really that sort of obnoxious, bossy kind of guy, or is he easy to get along with?
Oh, he's horrible. No, he's
Can't even imagine.
great. I would personally have a hard time bringing a song to the table and taking feedback from other people and making changes. So his willingness to do that's great, and I think it would be hard to work as a band if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky in that aspect that nobody feels that pressure from Dave at all.
It was a natural progression overall, too. Nothing really felt forced, so didn't really take too much time to think about it.
And you guys have remained as an independent band. You've never wanted to hook up with a label?
I mean,
Did I open a can of worms there?
well,
No, we just have never had an opportunity to be completely blunt.
I mean, sure, we've thought about it, and we've, I guess, kind of done some cold calls to some labels that we really, I mean, are fans of bands on there. But yeah, really, for the most part, like we just kind of have that DIY thing just like really deeply embedded. Like Matt is our engineer, so like all the Valaska recordings after Natural Habitat is all Matt's work. I think there's just like something about knowing that we literally did everything for the music and just for the band. Like we'll occasionally get help, but everything just kind of doing the DIY thing. It's a little more gratifying at the end.
I keep wasting my words, and I keep channeling the thought of a rebirth of moonlight in a vernal equinox, and all those secrets, charging crystals in the night, and watch the ceiling as my bed drifts away to another time. Turning over leaves, and they've been gathering up in piles, like some autumn debris that you forget after the fire. You're in motion, I'm getting older, I see me for what I am, and I'll keep starting over till I find a better plan. And I'll get lost in my way and make one with the current, and bring my feet back to the earth before I sink. And then I'll dream a new life, like a mirage in the distance, and the spirits of the kindred will hear you sing.
I guess this goes back into, Dave's solo era, because the original 2 recordings were both done with Aaron Marsh of Copeland as producer.
Yeah,
Do you think it's really given a change to the sound of Valaska?
I think so. There's definitely some elements that I kind of took and ran with that I picked up from Aaron. Just overall, like when I first went into the studio with Aaron, I really looked at him as just like a mentor, and I just kind of, I took everything that he was willing to offer up. Really, he taught me a lot about just like the writing process, the recording process, and then meeting the rest of the Valaska guys. It was just kind of like I applied that to their processes as well, and then it just kind of formed into what the band is now. So it's like there's still some elements, definitely some instruments, like Mellowtron is consistently on every single record, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, other elements have definitely changed. I think the music has gotten a little louder, heavier than the first 2 records.
But it is still mellow.
Yes.
Okay, you guys might be offended with what I'm going to say here now, but, I've always really enjoyed emo music, and that's the kind of impression I get from Valaska. I mean, I find it sort of carries that same sort of vibe, that inner turmoil. But
yeah.
Do you think that emo label actually fits your music?
I mean, yeah, I've been called emo since I was like 13.
It's in my phone as emo.
So, I mean, yeah, I think it might just be one of those things that's kind of deeply ingrained in myself. And, it probably comes as no surprise that I draw a tremendous amount from Conor Oberst and just Bright Eyes in general. So, and he obviously dealt with that label for a very, very long time. So I just think it kind of is a little instilled in my music as well.
And certainly nothing wrong with having him as an influence.
Yeah, I mean, I love him, so.
But I guess one real difference with you guys, I mean, it's much more atmospheric than just emo. And I mean, that style really came through on a song Reanimator from your Thing album.
Yeah. Really, I think when Matt, Zach, and I toured Natural Habitat, it was just like an acoustic trio. And then with Thing, I mean, I know for myself, and then James coming into Thing and then Inchoate, to be honest, it was really like James and I just kind of exploring the world of guitar pedals. I mean, I became addicted pretty quickly. So like just the atmosphere, the reverb, the delays, like it just kind of really grew on me.
But even with the newer recordings, it still carries that pretty distinctive sound from Valaska. I mean, you can always say, even from the earliest to the newest, this is it. This is the band. This is what we sound like.
Yes, as long as I've been in the band, it's always kind of been the mentality that, whatever songs come out, we should never be too worried about they're going to sound too much like this. They're going to sound like Valaska, hopefully at the end of the day. And just the way that we record them and, you know, Matt's touches on the recordings, it seems to all kind of work out that way.
Despite the thing that I've become, wasn't always this way. The best of me's under the tongue, behind what I don't say. The other side of where you say you wanna be, can't slow a setting sun. That's all that means.
The song Reanimator from Valaska's Thing album may not be totally typical of their sound, but it really does carry the overall flavor. And next, the band members of Valaska speak more about how they create their music. I want to cover something a little bit more in general. I find so many bands rely on just having catchy hooks, but Valaska seems to put a real emphasis on the lyrics, or at least that's my view. How do you see it?
I mean, yeah, with the first couple records for sure, I tried to back off a little bit on lyrics. On this record, mostly just because, I mean, Thing and Natural Habitat were extremely, extremely wordy. And I think when you have something like that, you kind of sacrifice like a hook or some sort of melody, catchy melody. Because it can be difficult to throw that when you have a ton of syllables in, just a couple seconds.
I'd like to hear about the songwriting, how it's done for Valaska. How does it work?
Well, if I can answer this one, and I think this goes back to what you were mentioning about how even though there might be an acoustic song or a song that's more atmospheric, they still sound like Valaska. I think no matter what happens, the songwriting process, it's never really changed too much. So I think that massively helps things sound consistent, even if there's different textures and different arrangements. I think at the end of the day, a Valaska song is a Valaska song because generally it's something Dave's written. Maybe not necessarily the chords, but He's put a lot of work behind it.
And we all understand that, like, that's how it is. That's kind of like a lot of the times the overall feel is coming from Dave, and it's kind of our job to enhance a little bit, but also like preserve that song.
So does it originate with the lyrics or with the music?
Usually, like, I mean, yeah, every song starts with just like me and one instrument. Like, I'm trying to think I know there have been a couple songs, specifically on Inchoate, where like we formed, like the first song, Spring, like James came to me with that guitar chord progression, and then I wrote lyrics to it, and that was, I think, essentially just the first verse. And then we didn't necessarily know how the song was going to play out until we just kind of started hashing it out all together. That was like a different and a very fresh approach to the writing process, because past records, like Thing, was, I would finish a song just on an acoustic guitar or piano, and then I'd bring it to the band, and then we'd kind of work it out and make changes from there. Whereas this one, there was more of the kind of building the song from the ground up all together.
Are you on my side? 'Cause my arms live to settle you. Are you holding on to something? Revealing most of what we never say. When it feels you're turning in my way, and if it's your love, let it go. And I hold my hand to those precious eyes.
From Inchoate by Valaska came Sundogs. You've been mentioning about Inchoate, which just released this tune. I don't know, is that the most misnamed album on the face of the planet? I mean, the word means unformed or incomplete, but obviously can't be applying to the album itself because it's totally cohesive. So that leaves me wondering why you happen to choose that name for the title.
I mean, I think for a lot of reasons. One is just that, like, as much as you've been saying, like, Valaska is Valaska, like, I still think as musicians, like, I mean, we're constantly growing and changing. And just lyrically, my, like, perceptions on the world and, like, emotionally, like, everything is constantly changing. Just, like, looking at certain things I've written in Natural Habitat that are almost like completely irrelevant to me now, which is kind of mind-boggling because at the time it was like certain emotions or whatever were like so earth-shattering. To now, it's like they're irrelevant, but I have this whole new batch of life experiences and whatnot to draw from. So I think lyrically that's where I personally, but I don't know what the other guys have to say about what their, I guess, take on it is.
I think a little bit, it's almost, the record title is almost sort of like a chapter name for the band. I don't think it necessarily describes the songs, but how we feel about the band at the moment we recorded them. Because I think a lot of what Inchoate was about for us was a lot of the sets we play live, we might play our more kind of sleepy and down songs, but we like to totally change that live and play them kind of high energy, and we wanted to sort of capture that on a recording. So I think it was, we don't certainly feel we've fully formed, and we always want to be changing and trying new things and never want to make the same record twice. So it's, like I said, almost more of a marker, a chapter title for the band than a description of the songs themselves.
Well, I guess you did bring up this point, and I was wondering about it myself, about how your music translated into a live show. Because, seriously, your songs on the records are really uber chill. But you're saying it takes on a totally different flavor when it's a live show.
Yeah, I mean, especially when, like, we're about to go on tour for 2 weeks. I mean, when you're playing shows kind of in a consecutive manner like that, I mean, you just get bored playing, like, the slower tempos and things like that. So you're just looking for ways to kind of enhance that, I guess, a little bit.
When we did our first tour as more like an acoustic trio, there were a couple nights where we would be playing like an open mic at a coffee house, and we would have to do the really kind of chill set. But then a couple nights where we'd be playing more like rock clubs, where you have to keep people a bit more engaged. So I think we experimented with a couple different sounds there, and then just kind of ran with that. And as much as we played with like the genres or the instruments of the music, we also kind of did some dynamic things, which I think translated a lot into the recordings, but into the live set, we kind of mixed things up pretty frequently.
Feeling like you're far too old, but you never know. You don't want to leave here where the quiet reigns heavy with a violence. I don't feel sorry for what you found, crying all your thoughts again.
Well, let's talk about some of the recordings. Vessels is the lead single off Inchoate. Tell us about the song.
I'm trying to remember at what point we wrote that song in the process of like the record.
I don't remember at all.
Yeah.
I feel like it was pretty middle.
Yeah. It started as a really, really slow piano song, and it was completely instrumental, actually. And then I transposed it to guitar, and then I showed Matt, and Matt was really into it, and then we kind of started rolling from there, and then we just kind of sat on it for a bit, and then we kind of revisited it later on in the writing process, and then we just kind of, it stuck out, and we were like, yeah, this seems like a strong song, and it had a pretty upbeat feel to it, like a little up tempo, and again, like yeah, a lot of our stuff is really drony and sleepy, so anytime you have something a little different, yeah, you want to like draw some attention to it.
And do you think that's the standout track from the album?
I think all of us have our own favorites. My favorite personally is Spring, I think.
It was hard finding the single. Every single person who ever heard the songs thought a different song was going to be the single, and we had I think we had about 3 or 4 we were all going between, but yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
So it was a battle.
I don't want to say it was a battle.
We bare knuckle boxed for a few rounds.
Yeah.
No, it was just a lot of shrugging our shoulders and looking at each other, saying, I don't know.
And that's the thing. I think we just tried to look at it sort of objectively, as best you can do that, and which song most represented the album, one, as a whole, and then kind of, hey, you know, it's catchy, like it just stuck out, I think, for us, and it ended up being the best choice.
Yeah. The most ironic thing about this whole record and whatnot is mostly the timing. Like, releasing a Valaska record at the beginning of summer, it just seems like almost counterproductive, because summer is like this time to be so upbeat and happy and like, you know, outside and doing all these things, but all the songs are mostly about like depression and just kind of being indoors, and it's like sad and gloomy. I mean, literally, even the color scheme of the record is the exact opposite of what you normally associate with summer and warm colors.
But maybe it'll work just as well when you're out on a long road trip and you just need those mellow tunes to carry you through.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's true.
This is Valaska, and you're listening to The Antidote with Dave Hawkins.
Someday we'll stop trying to figure it out, and we'll be
We were speaking about Vessels being the single from Inchoate. And I guess nowadays, so many artists really just put so much effort into singles rather than an album. But you guys almost seem to head the opposite direction. You're really making all of your songs key parts of the album. Is that the best route to take, though?
Well, thank you, first of all.
for noticing
Yeah,
something like that.
that's really cool.
But yeah, I think all of us, and that's what, again, like speaking about the chemistry right away, like all of us have always kind of been that, like we never really lost sight of the art of making an album rather than just like, let's just put together as many singles as we can.
Especially in a time when like that's all it is. Songs are just disposable.
Yeah.
And it's important to like kind of get an overall feeling of an LP than just releasing EPs or singles.
Because I think a single song by itself can have totally different meanings in the context of the songs that surround it.
Right.
So to just be doing singles is great if you want to, I don't know, make a little money quickly. But if you're trying to say something and have some sort of lasting meaning, I think it needs to be taken in context. And that can only really be done in an album.
Hopefully we can keep it up.
Then that makes me ask a natural follow-up question. Is that how you guys listen to music? Do you listen to the singles or do you like to listen to albums?
Yeah, we're all just, you sit down, you listen to a record, front to back.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm a sucker for like catchy hooks and catchy little songs, but then you go and listen to the record and you're like, I was expecting more, and then you don't get the substance.
I do have to admit that I think technology has changed that slightly. Like, for example, Spotify, unless you pay for it, you don't get the choice. So it's going to randomly select things for you. But when I had an iPod that worked, I would always start from the beginning, and then if I stopped somewhere, stopped, and then picked it up from there. Yeah, I think there's sort of a lost art of writing songs in an album and placing them, and it's kind of sad that isn't the case as much anymore.
I think I want to head back to speaking about the recording process for Inchoate. What were the struggles and what was easy for you?
I think the struggle was that we were on a bit of a strict timeline. Like, tour was already booked. For
the most part.
Yeah, there's like a couple dates, but yeah, it was essentially already booked. And I remember at one point it was like, oh, tour's booked, and I have like 5 songs I need to write still. So there was a bit of like, oh, we can't just sit on this forever, which was great because on Thing, it didn't take very long. I mean, it's like in the grand scheme, it was only like 3 months to make Thing. But I think that, the limitations always, I think, make for more creative decisions. It was kind of like a blessing and a curse, having the timeline.
And what was that time frame?
6 months all the way through, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so. What to just clarify, we were planning on doing a tour in the summer, and this is midwinter, I want to say. And then we had 5 or so songs, and then we figured, well, if we're going on tour, we might as well finish a record. So we're touring on something as opposed to just going on the road. So then we were like, all right, well, let's make a timeline and figure out how we can finish a record in time to tour on it.
Well, it's been a really hot day, and there's no air conditioning here in Studio Way. So I thought that just maybe our next song from Valaska might make me feel a little bit cooler. Here comes spring.
with what I wanna say, or the feeling that the worst yet to come. 'Cause you're not even here. No, you're a step behind the notion, and the simple words you spring. But I'm annulling your details, and all your riddles I can see. Well, you already know. But you I no longer hide myself in the closure of the known, and I'm still rubbing the sleep from my eyes. 'Cause what I'm seeing now is not the same before shut down. Simple words you speak, but I'm annulling your details. All your riddles I can see. Well, you already know.
I guess different artists work in different ways. I mean, I had somebody on, and he is so structured. Like, he just sits down. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to write all the songs in 10 days, and that's it.
I mean, did he have any help? Did he have any like record help? I want,
No, he just sits there, and this is how he's done it for 30 years.
and just like treats it like a job, and gets up in the morning. I think I heard,
It just seems so unnatural.
yeah.
That'd be tough because you have off days.
I think I heard like Sam Beam from like Iron and Wine. He just gets up in the morning and like takes his kids to school, and in the time from 9 to 5, like he just writes music. But also, we don't have that luxury.
I was going to say that.
We're also pressed for time in our own kind of personal lives too, where it's like we have jobs and things like that, and writing and recording has to get in there somehow. So,
Do you like that mix, or would it ever just be a total joy to be able to do music full time?
oh my God, yeah.
It would be great to just do music full time.
I'd love to see what like come out of that. Like, just, oh wait, that's like our job now. That is obviously a huge dream.
Well, I think I find my overall impression of Inchoate is it's sad. There's sad songs. Especially with one of those, which is Human Condition. And it's got lyrics that say, now that I've fallen sick with the human condition, where's life better with both your eyes closed? Or whatever gets you home. What brought all that about?
It's an old tune, right? I mean,
Yeah, like
they said that
it's
tune for a
funny.
while.
Yeah, Human Condition was actually like, I guess you could say it was like a Natural Habitat B-side. Like I wrote it in that time frame, or I at least started it. But it's funny. Like Human Condition, I don't know how long it is. I think it's like 4 minutes now. But that song used to be like close to 7 minutes long. Like the choruses alone were a minute each.
Wow.
Yeah, it was literally like my personal novel. It was so wordy, and then again, like with this record, we were trying to move away from that, but I still really like connected with the song, and I still really liked it. So we just kind of found a way. We gutted the choruses and just kind of rewrote them, and just found a way for it to work. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know it sounds silly. Like I'm 27, but yeah, it's just the song really mostly comes from just kind of the whole idea of like trying to find like who you are, and I guess the whole journey that coincides with that process, I guess you could say. I mean, I feel like, again, it's tie in with the album title. It's just, it's constantly changing. And like, one day you might feel like you have all of your life figured out. And then all it takes is for like, one event to, just to change everything. And then you feel like you're kind of starting from scratch again.
Who knew?
Exactly.
Had some happiness waiting at home, the warm fire in the blizzard storm. So you let it go and blame the ebb and the flow. It's not the way it was supposed to go. Pack up your dreams in the back of the yard and play it off like you know who you are. You haven't looked in a mirror since all your friends disappeared. You say you're fine with pretty eyes swelling up with tears. And remember when you said you wanted to quit, but there's always something new you need to forget. So you burnt down a bridge cause you felt up for the swim. The water's warm but now you're lonely and drifting. 'Cause now that I've fallen sick with a human condition, where life's better with both your eyes closed, or whatever gets you perfect circles when we're setting it straight. Cause you lost track of us in all your chakra haze, and the sex on your breath, a minor bedside effect. At this point I'd even settle as a consequence. I can't really say that there's a lesson I'll learn, cause I'll find a way to get my feelings hurt. In the loop before you tighten the noose. These are the dog days of my unstable brain. And now that I've fallen sick with a human condition, where life's better with both your eyes closed. And now that I've fallen sick with a human condition, where life's better with both your eyes closed, or whatever gets you home.
Really thoughtful lyrics on the song Human Condition from Valaska. And I think that searching style of lyrics seems to be true on all of their music. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the anecdote that I'd gone to the States for a music festival. Audio Feed 2016 was awesome. A lot of great bands were there, and they covered all the genres that air on the anecdote. Punk, rock, metal, indie folk, and there was even a couple of ska bands. Besides the torrential rains last Sunday, it was excellent being there. The one problem I have with festivals is that there's always some point on the schedule where I want to see 3 bands who all happen to play different stages at the same time. But at least I was able to see probably about 50 of the 140 bands that played. And during Audio Feed, I also had the chance to meet with about a dozen artists for talk about their music, and those will be coming up over the next couple of months on the anecdote. Next week, I'm going to feature several artists who played Audio Feed, and hopefully you'll enjoy the playlist. Okay, next up, Valaska gives us the explanation about why Chicago is the Windy City, and since I'm still really tired from the festival, I'm going to put the title of the closing song from Inchoate album to use. Here comes Sleep, and enjoy your week. You said you've got plans for summer touring. Whereabouts are you heading?
Down south.
Down south in the summertime.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
That was stupid,
It's going to be, it was poorly planned. We didn't think that through.
We're headed to Kansas City, Nashville, New Orleans, Memphis.
All the hot ones.
All the hot ones.
We're like, where can we go where we have the best chance of just sweating until we die?
Well, let's talk about weather in your city. I mean, you guys are from Chicago, so you got to tell me, is it really as windy as they say?
I guess in the city, but I feel like in every city it's going to be a little more windy, like if you're downtown.
I guess you notice it most in the winter.
That's true.
Well, yeah, the wind is cold. But I mean, that as the saying is, it comes from people talking bullshit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Windy City, it's from like politicians.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say a lot of people talk bullshit here. But
Yes, it's very windy in that regard. Yeah.
Okay, well, that cuts the whole interview because you guys have just been BSing me.
That's right. Yeah, this has all been a lie.
we're not even a band. We just recorded
are
an album just to do this and trick you.
Okay, but here, seriously, what's your favorite thing to do in Chicago?
Oof.
Me personally, I love the museums. Like any chance I get, I'd love to just go to any. Like I've been meaning to get to the Field Museum. I love Art Institute. I mean, we just have great museums here. So that's if I have extra time, that's definitely what I'll try to do.
Food for me.
It's hard to go wrong with food.
Yeah, me and Matt connect on food quite a bit. I mean, I could just be like, "Hey, I tried this place." I'm like, "Oh yeah," like we're just like so in tune to like all the different kinds of cuisine around here. It's really nice.
There's a lot though. I mean, there's good venues, there's good breweries, there's good places you can drink beer and play video games, and
That's true,
that's great for us. We like to do both those things. So
there's a couple places in the city where you can go and play like vintage pinball machines and vintage like video arcade games and drink, and it's really great. And you don't have to like small talk and yeah, it's really entertaining. It's really nice.
So listen, before we go, how about telling us where to find Valaska online and where do we get your music?
Pretty much all your streaming websites, Spotify's, Apple Music,
iTunes,
Bandcamp.
We have a big cartel if you want T-shirts or to buy a physical CD. You can buy bundles and whatever.
Yeah, we have all kinds of deals on there, so check those out. Facebook.com/Valaska Music.
Instagram, Valaska Music, all that.
It's all Valaska Music.
I think there's a ValaskaMusic.com that's kind of a portal to everything too.
Valaska has been here with the anecdote. Guys, thanks so much for joining in.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot
much
for having us.
It was a good time.
Did I run myself away? Am I lighter now? 'Cause I held on its threads and now it's coming back for more. Did I breathe for its pride? 'Cause it lived in my eyes. Well, I've been wrong. I've been waiting for the sun to give in. And you know with truth, and I'd swear on it for you, but I've been wrong.